This video describes a system of personality study. It will be useful to you in understanding yourself and the people who are close to you in life, particularly those with whom you live and work. The 9-pointed star diagram indicates 9 different points of view of the human condition. Each point of view is defined by a chief mental and emotional concern. We begin with the 3 basic points of view: image, fear, and self-forgetting. Point 3 is the image type, marked by high energy, productivity, and a concern with personal achievement.
The way a 3 would enter, if you were going to be a 3, would be to sit down something like this. The 3 in me likes to charge ahead, worry about details later, you know, and you get so far down into a project before you find out that you should have turned left about 2 miles ago. Then it takes the 3 energy is to try to keep driving on through. You know, it's only a brick wall ahead of you, you know, and if you work hard enough, you can drive right on through a brick wall. To back up and correct course and go on again. Tough one for me to do. Work is also, it's so much more rewarding when it's visual. I can spend a day on a computer, and what did you do at the end of the day? You spend a day on the computer. There's no, unless I gotta print files all the time, so I have paper to see. You know, I have to have visual results. If I was building a watch, how many watches did I build today? If I was selling a watch, how many watches did I sell? You know, visual reward for work, and the bigger the better. It's much more rewarding to build a house than it is to build a little box. And you could build a jewelry box that could take you hundreds of hours to get the detail right, but to spend 100 of hours on building a house or a barn, and then you have something that, hey, look what I did. There's a competition that is wonderful in work. You know, the expression that I still find myself using is, if you don't want footprints on your back, stay out of my way. I don't mean anyone harm, but the dedication, the drive of a 3 is far out in front of the project that is coming, and that drive can step on people. It's very hard to get the feedback that I want from family, because I'm always doing something instead of just hanging out and being. And so by the time you get it done, my family would rather have me than have me out there in the garage building something for them. You know, and it's a hard one. It's a hard concept for me to get. I don't know if I'm ever going to get it, but it's a hard concept. Being, I don't understand. Doing, and better than doing is done. I love the image of 3. You know, I love putting on the costume of doing and being and going fast and getting it all done and carrying all these projects and doing it all, because that's out in public, and that's where you get it done, and it's exciting. Before leaving the house, I put on a costume. The costume is what I perceive is going to be expected from the people that I'm going to go meet. And once I get there, then I can adjust that image to be whatever it needs to be. And I will carry that image, and it's almost like a suit of armor. You know, I will carry that image. It takes effort. You know, you carry the image that is necessary when you are working to get the task done. And then, of course, when you hit bottom and exhaustion comes and there is nothing more, the image all goes away, and you find, you know, sweatpants, don't shave, don't shower, don't care if I get out of bed, a grubby, slovenly posture. But that will never be in public. That's what my family gets to enjoy when I'm exhausted and go home. Let me see if I can show you quickly on image. Now, you know, the chair is intentionally set like this so that it's more comfortable, and I have something, you know, to play with. You know, sitting down is not my favorite place to be. Standing up and pacing is better. So let me change image. Here's an image. Okay. Now let me change it just by changing the chair. This is a different image. Now this image works just as well for me, you know, and I can be a different person. If I need to be more serious and conservative, it's easy for me to just, you know, change it a little bit and be more conservative, a different person. The whole personality changes, and then let me change it again. Let me take off this jacket. Image. I will adjust the image instantaneously. I'll adjust it to match what I think people want from me. And It's not a planned, it's not a conscious. I'm not being deceitful, I'm not being dishonest. I just adjust to what I think you want me to look like. And the chameleon is an accurate description. Along with image is, how do you support the image? And I support it with diaphragm. Now, if I inhale deep, I'll exhale about 1/3, lock it right there. And from that locked in diaphragm is where everything comes out of and produces the image that I need. Now I don't want to risk a full breath. And I'll say I don't want to risk a full breath because it takes too long, but it's also because then you feel. Feelings are suspended until after the work gets done. And if I'm lucky, the work will never get done, so the feelings are always suspended so I don't have to deal with them. Until the point of exhaustion when I don't care about them because I'm too tired. So feelings are not something that are enjoyable. And I will lock them out. And then I'll try to get them by doing. And never happen. Diaphragm lock, locking out, postponing feelings, I don't know. I'm not sure that I have full access to my feelings, and I'm too afraid of them to go looking much.
We leave point 3, where activity replaces feelings, and move to 6, where feelings are centered in fear.
I cultivated a really keen sense of always knowing where I am, what's out there from me, where the danger is, where the people are, what's in the room, even inanimate objects that might turn into real things. And I developed such a place for that. It's a place that lives in me, and that whenever there's a real situation that causes fear in me, I have this fine-tuned system to just scan, like eyes in the back of my head, incredible hearing. And if there's a situation that is false evidence appearing real, that I might hear a sound, then my imagination goes into the scenario, then the same process goes. So sometimes I can't control it. I mean, it serves me well when I'm threatened for real. And it puts me through it even if it isn't real. For example, when I first moved to California, I was really terrified of earthquakes, and I had such a abnormal fear of earthquakes that I obsessed about them, and I would think I heard them. And then the real fear I had was of tidal waves, and I had a visual of tidal waves, and I would dream about them, and I was really terrified that my daughter, who was 3 at the time, and myself would be just taken away by this giant tidal wave. And one day I was walking down the street where I lived, and I heard a whoosh from like a fire hydrant that had cut loose, and I experienced and saw, and my whole process saw the tidal wave. And 2 minutes later, there I was standing on the street, and everybody was going about their business, and no tidal wave had happened. After that experience, I never obsessed and had the fear of tidal wave earthquakes again. And I think it's because I lived through it. My body did, my experience was, and for me there's some strange thing about the compellingness of the fear, living on the edge of the fear, sort of like a cliffhanger, and then it happens, and oh my God, it's happening, and then I'm safe. There's sort of a relief process from that. In a real situation, I can take action. I'm not afraid. I have incredible strength, energy, perception, skill. I think of myself as a warrior. I've had dreams where I've been a warrior when in my dream my family's being attacked, or I've defended them and been Superwoman. In reality, in situations that have happened in my real life, when I have not been afraid, when I've been threatened. What paralyzes me is when I'm imagining, when I'm future tripping, when I'm worrying about what can happen, will happen, and my mind is scanning for all the information that will validate that this is going to happen to me. And then I'm in that dread, anxiety, fear, but all the mechanisms are up, and usually the stuff doesn't happen to me. I know that too. I have to talk myself through it, and look at false evidence appearing real. Coming from a paranoid stance, it's really hard to accept compliments from people. it's like they're telling you something nice about yourself, and you're watching their lips move, and you think you're hearing something else. I'm putting the script in there, and there's something underlying that I'm looking for that is negative that they're saying to me. Where's the attack? Where is the put down? I have to just, say to myself, they're saying something nice to you. Just hear what they're saying. That's your own mind, making that up. It's kind of like always being suspicious of what others are thinking of you, and it isn't good. Going to a party, walking into a room, it's a very self-obsessed place. That all eyes are on you, and they're laughing at you, and it's a very uncomfortable place. It's also suspicion in terms of relationships and people I'm really close to. When I know in my heart that someone loves me, I'm very uncomfortable when they tell me, I love you. It's like, I don't believe you, and where are you going to let me down? Where are you going to get me? I'm always suspicious of positive things being said to me with the people I'm closest to. I've always had a real fear of authority. I mean, really fear of authority. As a kid in school, if I'd be spacing out, really not paying attention, and the teacher would call my name, I'd just, rigid back in my body, and what do they want from me? And even if I knew the answers to the questions, I would just go blank and have amnesia because of my fear. And as I, got older and, needed things from the establishment or the world out there, my fear would be of, well, certainly of policemen and army or anything like that, but on a more basic level, just bank officials, having a bank account, anybody who looked like they had any authority, even if I was their boss in a situation, if they came on that way, then I would be the subordinate in fear of, I'm not going to do it right, and then it's going to come down on me. Something's going to happen to me. That kind of fear of authority. I can summon up the courage, the energy, the strength, the determination for the underdog, for other people's causes, for the young, the hopeless, the helpless, the hurt person, the poor person. I really identify with the underdog, and it really makes me feel strong to be on the right side, and it has something to do with defiance in the face of authority, and we're right and we're righteous, and we're going to bring down the world of the parents, the police, the bank people, the authority.
From 6, the point of fear, we move to the self-forgetting 9. 9s know other people's position better than they know their own.
My tendency is to respond to mostly what other people are thinking and seeing their points of view. And when I see both points of view, it makes it very difficult for me to arrive at a decision of my own from my own being. And I would tend to look at both sides of a particular question, especially when it has to deal with perhaps people that are very intimate with me. I have a lot of emotional feeling, or there's a lot at stake. Then those kind of decisions become very acute, and I can see both positions, and it creates a middle position that I tend to take, where I look at one side and I can see all their points. I look at another side and I can see all their points. And I don't know where my point really lies in there, so I stay in the middle, and it tends to keep me in the middle. So then my consciousness is absorbed with being in the middle, and it makes it hard to take an action. After a while, you begin to realize that you can't operate that way, and it doesn't operate that way with situations external to myself. By external, I mean if it's a political decision, or it's an emergency, or it's some kind of something between two other people that perhaps I don't have that much about. I can make a great mediator, because in a situation where I'm not emotionally involved so much. I can see both sides. I can expound the point of view to each person from the other point of view and mediate between two warring factions and sometimes get results. I would tend to say that I have a lot of energy, and it's a lot of potential energy. And to activate that potential energy, it's usually some situation where there's some pressure, external. I can be quick to build somebody else's house, get it done on schedule, no problem. I've been working on my house for 13 years. And the tendency is to go into action when called for. It is a little bit more difficult for me to call up my own action for a particular activity for myself. And my house has been quite a metaphor for my life. So I see in building the house how indecision comes up. Aesthetic decisions become very difficult. I can go to somebody else's place, change their space in a week, no problem. But when it comes back to the self, then the inertia starts to take place. I think inertia for me means that there are so many points of view, projects, activities to do. The inertia comes from choosing which one to take, and the frustration of not having enough time to do them all, perhaps getting drawn to one then drawn to the other, and no one single thing would dominate. You want to practice and do your meditation and go practice your Tai Chi, and you want to work on the house and have a good relationship, and you want to do all these activities, and the time gets spaced out so you can't concentrate really on one, and you don't have the you need that extra push to really get moving. It takes a lot of push to get going, and once you can get going, it's great, but it takes a lot of initial energy to get over the hill. And once you get over the hill, you can coast, and you can get an amazing number of things accomplished in a very short time. But because of, once you settle back into inertia after a period of doing a lot of activity, take a pause, the pause kind of solidifies and you start to see all the things that need to get done, and then you get pulled to one side or the other, and then they all are sort of yapping at you at the same time. And rather than just choose one, the tendency is to pay attention to a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit here, there. And the inertia is not that you're sitting still, it's that you're doing too many things at once. So sometimes I put myself in situations where I don't have time to think. And this is, I know you're gonna like this. I'll wait for a deadline until the last minute, and then I'll just perform and get it done, because I have all that pressure on myself. And so I use that as a device to gear myself up to get something done. I'll set a deadline that's, I'll even make someone else set a deadline that's arbitrary, and that way I can have it done.
This completes the diagram's inner triangle, focusing on image, fear, and self-forgetting. The 6 remaining points of view are variations of the 3 basic concerns. We begin with 1, the perfectionist, whose life is devoted to correctness and ethical action.
Doing things right is really important to me. I work as a picture framer. It requires a lot of exacting measurement, a lot of aesthetic decisions that are sometimes very subtle, very delicate, and most of the time people don't even notice the things that I've decided on. And that's okay, because I know that it's right. I know that when the frame is finished, it's going to be perfect. What I don't like is working with people who don't know what they want. And I don't like people that ask for stuff that they should have figured out. It should be obvious that you don't put a photograph against glass. You don't ask me to put a photograph against glass. If you ask me, I'll explain why you don't in great detail. I'm going to teach you how to do it right. In the shop where I work, my employer is someone who's not an artist and is not really a framer. And I have to take direction from her during different parts of the day. She'll interrupt me with clients. She'll interrupt me in the middle of a line that I'm cutting. And she'll want to know why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it. What I go through inside is very difficult. I'm infuriated. Instantly, I'm infuriated. I'm enraged. And I can't do anything about it. For one thing, I have to cut the mat. I have to continue to cut the mat. So I have to keep my energy quiet, because I have to cut this mat. I know what's required to do that. What I want to express to her has to do with flailing my arms, shrieking, shouting, frightening her very badly. But I can't, because I work for her. So I have to do a good job. So I have to be perfect. So it all has to come back into place, and I have to cut the mat the way she wants me to. When I'm interrupted and told to do it better than the way that I'm doing it, which is already as well as it can be done, and I have to shove it inside, and I have to be nice, and I have to work for someone, chances are that later in the day, when I'm buying coffee and some poor slob passes the money across the counter in a thoughtless way, I'll blast him. I'll blast him for no reason. And I'll blast him in such a sharp way he may not even know that he's been blasted. But something will happen, and I'll have to get it out, because I had to repress it earlier in the day. I had to shove it inside myself. If I'm criticized for the work that I do, what frequently happens is that I'll begin to criticize myself even more to make it better, because I don't want the criticism to come from the outside. I can apply it from the inside easily. I have a lot of patience with my self-correction. I can correct myself infinitely. My inner critic is like a voice that never quits. It's not a voice that I really hear. It's just a constant direction. I know what to do it right. And I have to align myself with that all day long. If I do it wrong, I pound myself internally. I beat on myself mercilessly. Nobody even knows. I could be standing around smiling, but I'm beating on myself because I did something wrong earlier in the day. In the shower this morning, I thought of something that I said to someone last night, and it didn't come out quite right. The combination of words was wrong, and I was misunderstood, and I hate that. Mentally, I'm stabbing myself in the shower over something that I said the night before, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm completely vulnerable in the shower. I'm alone. It's a harrowing experience. What I like about this is that where most people will do something halfway and leave something a little undone, leave a thread hanging, I'll stay with a situation, I'll stay with a piece of work, or I'll stay with a relationship, long past the point where most people would, because I believe that if I work hard enough, I can make it work. The responsibility that I feel to make things right can work with me or can work against me. Right now I'm finishing a graduate degree and I'm working on my final paper. I want to write a paper that's definitive in the form. I want to write a paper that could be publishable. And I'll procrastinate to get myself mentally ready to get every little detail in place before I begin to work. And I may never get it finished, because I work so hard to make it perfect in my mind before I begin. What really gets me is that as hard as I work to make things be perfect, somebody's going to come along that's not even going to notice. That there's going to be an infinite number of things that's going to mess up as hard as I work. I'm still going to keep working to be perfect, but it really pisses me off. The best way to relate to someone like me is to keep in mind the fact that you can't come up with anything that I haven't already thought of in terms of correcting myself. And that if you know how self-critical I am, you'll approach me with a little more space.
From one's desire for perfection, we move to point 4, a tragic romantic who sees the world through emotional highs and lows.
For me, in a relationship, the most important thing is to be emotionally met, to be seen and heard from a heart place. It's not about gifts or regular attention or going out to dinner. It's about the deepest, most intimate parts of someone's soul being open and available to me. Because I want that kind of emotional depth with someone, there's always an aspect of longing. It isn't always possible or attainable right there. And I find that I long for and ache for more intensity and more feeling and more desire and more magic and more spirituality, more of everything. I'm often told that I'm a moody person, which I actually think of as a compliment, but I know that I can go to the lowest lows, or as my mother would say, I'm in the depths of despair one minute, and the next minute I'm above the clouds in ecstasy. And that's been my whole life. And the whole range in between those 2 points, I live those things. I think that if you're looking at me from the outside and I'm not happy, if I'm in my depths, it can look really frightening. Is she ever going to come out of this? On the other hand, I don't think many people touch the heights that I reach when I am in my places of joy. There's a place in my moods that can be perceived of as melancholy, and I don't perceive of melancholy as a bad thing. It's the sweetest, almost sacred place that I go. When I'm writing, when I'm playing the piano, I have an element of being surrounded by the other, by something that I connect with the source, whatever God is to many people, is what I am the most connected to when I am in a place that is perceived of as melancholic. It's delightful and sweet and has flavors and smells and tastes to it that I don't think everyone can perceive. I think the most natural progression for me in my life as I was growing up was to end up in the arts. It gave me a sense of authenticity. It gave my feelings a place to go, and the colors were not black and white or gray, they became technicolor, so that everything that I was feeling had its own sense of truth in the arts, in theater, dance, music, poetry. I think I'm very lucky. I'm blessed in my life that I get to do the kind of work that I really love. I would perish if I couldn't. I find that working in the theater is wonderful, but what took it another level for me was being able to work with adolescents. I think for many people from the outside working with teenagers, it would look horrific. Their drugs, the despondency, the suicidal claims, all of the aspects of them that feel frightening to other people and parents especially. But I don't find that it frightens me or that it bothers me. There's nothing about their emotional terrain that is not okay with me, and probably because it feels familiar to me. It's from the outside, I think it would probably look frightening to people who love me when I go into a mood or a place that isn't what other people would perceive of as happy or okay. I have an intolerance for small, bright, cheery, superficial anything. I think for the most part, if it isn't real and deep and meaningful and have some thrust to it, that I'm not interested. It's boring to me, has no flavor. I have a similar kind of challenge in relationships. I find that the romance of moving into a relationship and all the incredible feelings that it evokes and all the magic that the beginnings hold in a relationship catch me and capture me and catch my imagination. And once you move beyond that phase, the hard part for me is brushing your teeth and waking up in the morning over and over again with the same person and trying to feel interested in what everyday life is. I think what saves me from a life of longing is making the ordinary special, extraordinary. If I can keep my house clean and have the mundane world around me handled, all the practical things of the world taken care of, then anything can happen from that point, and there's no limit to my creativity.
From 4's preoccupation with depth of feeling, we move to point 2, which alters to suit the emotional needs of others.
I care a lot about getting other people's approval.
This is sad but true. I can tell when it's not going well with somebody. I can tell if they don't like what I'm saying, if we're not connected, if there's no sense of click between us. And I don't know to what degree I'm reading their body language, or to what degree it's intuition, or call it what you like. It can be exhausting watching for the approval of other people all the time, because there's a constant monitoring process going on. It's visceral, I mean, it's taking place in my body, but it's on the alert all the time. For example, I can be standing on line at the supermarket, and if I smile at the cashier and she doesn't smile back at me, and I decide something's wrong, I'll go into a whole trip in my head about, well, she's having a bad day, or maybe she's like that all the time, or what else is going on in the store? Is it me? Is it personal? Is it her? And this can be a perfect stranger, and I can get really absorbed in this thought process. And what gets lost here is maybe I disapprove of that person, maybe I didn't like her, but I'm so busy wondering if she likes me, I lose it. When I really care about getting somebody's approval, someone in particular, someone who's important to me for whatever reason, then it gets urgent inside. So urgent that I find myself shifting and altering to what I know that person would like, and I don't always know how I know. I just become very sensitive to what kind of voice they'd like to hear, to what words they'd like to hear, to what tone they'd like to have me take, whether I should be a kind of soft person or an aggressive person or lighthearted or dead serious. And I can occupy all these different selves, and they do all feel like part of me. It's not like I'm faking and putting on a mask. This sense of myself that I have of having many different selves has its pros and cons, obviously. On the pro side, I have completely different types of friends who wouldn't be able to stand each other in the same room if they met. But I get along well with all of them, and it allows me to know lots of different kinds of people. I'm a writer, and as a novelist, it allows me to get into the kind of hearts and the minds of completely different types of people and make characters out of them, which is quite wonderful. But on the other side, it's hard in my relationships sometimes, because someone will get to know me very well or think that they're getting to know me very well, and I am quite forthcoming with people, and they think they're getting an entirely honest version of me, but chances are I haven't really revealed some essential parts of myself. And it's not that I'm trying to be secretive, and it's not that I'm trying to hide. It just takes time for all those selves to show and to be accepted. I can get very interested in someone who's distant in some way, and then what they have, their qualities seem very, very important to me and magnetic. And I can just jump through hoops to get this person interested or to get to know such a person. And sometimes when we do get to know each other and they turn around and then they're very interested in me, it can get a little scary, because the feeling is, well, they didn't really get to know me. They saw a slightly altered version that I used to get their attention. Well, now it's time for them to really get to know me. And, well, what if they disapprove, or what if they have a sense that they've been lied to? And it can all get kind of panicky and confused in there, and I don't quite know what to do. When I'm really going after somebody, say in a romantic situation, something I really care about, and I find that I'm rejected, horror of horrors, this has been known to occur, sometimes I can really do the wrong thing. I mean, I can really lean on the person very hard and not let go. And sometimes that's absolutely the worst thing to do, and it really shatters my pride. It's very important for me to be able to do things alone and to kind of be the inspiration for myself rather than looking for that approval from other people. But boy, I have to brave a lot of anxiety and panic when I do it. Giving is a multifaceted word for me. It's something I do very naturally, very easily. I have a very good sense of what people want in terms of conversation, gifts, mood, whatever. And sometimes I regret to say it can be actively manipulative on my part. I can know, well, if I give this, then I will get this in return, or I hope to. Other times, I don't know I'm doing that. It's quite unconscious. but I'll give something and I'll find myself resenting the person later because I really wanted something back and I didn't know it. And other times it's very natural, very clean, and very sincere, and it's just a pleasure to give.
From 2's strategy of pleasing other people, we move to 8, a type that strives for control.
Well, I don't think of myself as someone who likes to control, but I don't like being controlled. If someone's pushing me around or trying to manage me, I can be very bristly or rebellious. I've been self-employed for a long time. I don't do well with bosses. And I've pretty much organized my life so I'm not beholden to anyone, and there's not many people who do have control over me. There are sometimes I just have to take action if it feels like there's been an injustice. I was in a bank last week and they wanted to charge me $5 to cash a check. This was a new bank policy. And I knew that if I just let this go by, that this would stay with me all day long, that I just wouldn't be able to forget about it, and I would sort of feel like something had been done to me. So I asked the teller if I could speak to somebody with more authority, and then when I spoke to that person, they brought out somebody with more authority, until finally I got this mealy-mouthed bank president or vice president, who explained to me essentially over and over again that it was just bank policy to charge me this $5. And I'm saying things to him like, well, how nice for you. So I stayed in his face until finally he allowed that I wouldn't have to pay the $5 to cash the check. And it took me about 10 minutes, and I had disturbed people in the bank, raised my voice a few times, kind of got in this guy's face. But when I left, it was finished, and I didn't have to carry it around with me all day. I think what vengeance does is it mitigates that feeling of helplessness. When someone does something to me, or my space is intruded on and there's nothing really that I can do about it in the moment, if I think about justice, if I think about vengeance, it softens that. It's a balm for that feeling of helplessness. People who don't express anger seem to me to be chronically angry. They kind of let it seep out here and there. My experience is that when I get angry, I let it come up, I express it, and then it's over with. And so I don't carry it around all the time. And when I'm with someone who won't be angry or is afraid of anger, there's a tendency for me to provoke them, to see what the real feelings are, because I think there's some really true stuff that comes up with anger. I think anger's really had a bad rap. It's described as a negative emotion, and people talk about getting it out of their lives and not being angry and so on. But it's really an appropriate response, I think, to a lot of modern life. And my experience is that when I get angry, I don't come apart, I don't get confused, I don't get upset by it. In a way, there's a kind of clarity and power that comes in it. And so when I'm really angry and really let it kind of come through me, I can be very effective in it. What's always attracted me was pleasure. Whether it was cheap thrills or something really profound like a love affair. It's the thing that always moves me and will motivate me, get me moving, and keep me there. When I was a kid, I would take anything to get high. I had these very rococo drug experiences through college. And the pursuit of love and great sex has been probably the thing that's really kept me going more than anything else in my life. There needs to be an intensity in the pleasure. It can be anything. It can be in art, it can be in sex, it can be in drug experiences, it can be in intellectual exercises, there can be the elegance of an idea. But it needs to be powerful. It needs to be something you can surrender to. I was recently driving back from New Mexico across the desert, and there was the most fantastic lightning storm I've ever seen. And I'm in this rented Lincoln, and I've got the Rolling Stones turned up full blast, and this fantastic lightning's going on, and it's making me, you know, I'm breaking out in a sweat on it. I'm scared and also incredibly elated. And it was wonderful just to sort of surrender to that. So the word that's used is lust, but it's really bigger than sexual lust. It's from the German word Lust, which means appetite for life. And there's a downside to it. It can be hard on your health. Sometimes it's against the law. and it can wreak havoc on relationships. It's really difficult to find somebody that can match my appetite. I seem to have this capacity for pleasure that's boundless, and it's hard to find people who will stay up late enough, who will make the commitment to it, or just plain have the capacity to experience it. So I'm often abandoned in this. It's hard to find people that are as committed to it as I am. Love seems to me to be more of a constant. Once it's there, it's there. But the excitement, the passion, it seems like that comes and goes. And so to keep that in a relationship, to keep that happening, is really important. And really the highest compliment that a woman can pay me is to be hot for me. Well, one of the things I like about myself is a sense of conviction. I know what I want, I know what I don't want. I always know what the proper thing is for me to do. Sometimes this is being pulled along by appetite. Sometimes it's a sense of dignity. Sometimes it's a sense of justice. I don't feel that I cave in very much to fear. I think fear is always unattractive, and I just don't tolerate it much in my life. I think the task in my life is to cultivate innocence, which means partly being harmless, which is not easy for me, and to get away from prejudices and policies and to be alive more to every moment.
From 8's excessive way of life, we move to point 5. Here, security depends upon reducing personal needs.
Privacy is very important to me. It's a necessity of life. For me, privacy is the chance to get off by myself and to recharge my batteries, to think over what's happened, the interactions, the conversations, the experiences I've had over the past stretch of time, to be able to assimilate them, to think them over, to play with them in my mind. It's a chance to get to the real me. I'm a professor of linguistics by profession, and in the nature of things, I have to meet the public a great deal and get up in front of classes all the time, sometimes very big classes. I have a class now of about 325 students, the Intro to Linguistics. And I know a lot of people in my profession who are sort of scared deep down about getting up in front of people. And I know what that means. Everybody, I think, has a little flutter getting up in front of a lot of people. But I have a mechanism for detachment, even in a situation like that. All I have to do is a sort of ritual act, which is like picking up the chalk or spreading out my papers. I sometimes have papers for show because I don't prepare my lectures, I must say, very much. I like the feeling of getting up there really not formally prepared and just having to do it. It's a nice kind of jolt. Anyway, I can be there in front of the people, everybody looking at me, but again, I'm a million miles away in a sense. I'm sort of observing or watching myself giving this lecture, and it doesn't matter because of that, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, 50, or 1,000 people. I am not there. It's as if I'm always observing myself. There is a part of myself which is detached from the rest of me. I don't have it or him physically located in space. That is, I don't feel this observer is above my head or behind me or off to the left or the right. It's an internal sort of thing. It's the part of me which is not involved in what's going on, but which is not judging it so much as looking at myself perform. Well, what's good about this stance? It has protective value, for one thing. It protects me from exposing myself to unexpected jolts of emotion. Power surges, you might say. It makes it possible for me to neutralize unpleasant emotions. Like if I have a very upsetting event in my life, it enables me to cope, to distract myself by engaging in other kinds of activities and to cut off the feeling part of myself from the thinking part of myself. But, you know, in a way this is an amputation. I'm cutting off part of myself. And more as I've gotten some insight into the way my mind works, I have feelings of regret that that by cutting off the well springs of emotion, I'm cutting off a lot of experience. I think I am a sympathetic listener. I pay just enough attention so that I can get to the bottom, I feel, of what a person is bringing to the situation, what the person really wants. I flatter myself, I think, that I can figure out what a person really wants from me at any moment, whether it's a student or a family member or a friend. I can psych out what the person really wants from me. I can decide how to provide this as fast and efficiently as possible, then provide it, and then have the feeling that, okay, I've done it, now you can leave me alone. Now I will retract into myself and think about this. On the negative side, again, I feel that my mental stance interferes with my memory, especially memories of pleasant or harmless events in the past. That is, particular restaurants I've gone out to with particular people at particular times. People are often surprised that I don't remember such and such a happy occasion in the past when we went out together or did something together. And the reason is that these were non-threatening, nice situations. I sort of let them flow over me, but didn't really experience them profoundly and such, or didn't hitch on a little affect to them so that they would remain imprinted on my memory. They just sort of slid off. And it's as if they never happened in a way. I would say that my wants are simple in many ways. I'm not interested in a lot of money per se, or a lot of clothes, or you know, I like to eat good food, but I feel I have the ability to get by with whatever is around. I really love the idea of having a secret life, different from what people expect of me. I mean, I have a certain professional role, standing in the community, expected a set of behavior patterns, and I'm happy to conform to these to a very large extent because it's the simplest way to get along. But I also cherish the feeling that sometimes I can go off and do things which no one in their wildest dreams would imagine that I do. I don't think I have to go into detail. None of them are so horrible. But for me, they're very important because they're an expression of my autonomy, my freedom, my independence, my lack of predictability, my privacy.
From 5, we move on to the optimistic 7, who sees life through a filter of pleasant future plans.
Life is full of options. There are options, everything in life you can imagine. They're all there for the taking, and I want to partake in all of it. There's so many possibilities and so many things to do. When I do make a choice, if I find myself in a situation that's not interesting, I find a way of making it interesting. I'm never bored. I'll sit there and maybe I'll plan dinner, I'll think of a conversation I had with someone, I'll go on a trip, I'll make a list. I'm never bored. When I have a good idea, something really fun to do, I get very excited about it. I'm so enthusiastic. And when I talk to other people, if they're not interested, I can't understand it. So, well, I just charm them and try to get them convinced it's a good thing to do. If they don't, I'll do it by myself. Spontaneity is really important to me. And so I feel like when I have an idea, I have to follow it through or I'll lose the spontaneity and something in me kind of dies a little bit. I can't stand limits. I can't stand to feel confined at all. I feel claustrophobic. I feel hemmed in on, like I'm going to die. I have to be free. I need this feeling of freedom. I feel like I'm a free spirit. I'm fascinated by other people and by other people's emotions. I like to hear the details of their story and what they've been through. As long as I don't have to have the feelings and I'm not hurting, I'm so interested in what they're experiencing. When something comes up that's painful to me, I have a very difficult time dealing with it. I'm always too busy. I'm having too much fun, I'm involved in something else, I'll think about it later. I'll put it on the back burner and I'll think about it, and later it'll come up. Maybe there'll be a solution for it. Or maybe I won't have to deal with it at all. If there's a difficult or painful thing I have to do, maybe to say something to someone in a relationship that's really important, it's so hard for me to grasp it. I have to really work. It dissipates it. I can almost see it go in a cloud of smoke. Sometimes I even have to write it down to remember it. It's very hard for me to hold on to what's unpleasant. Commitment is really difficult for me. It's so limiting and so confining. I find myself distracted very easily. Sometimes I feel like a horse that needs blinders on to keep my eye on the road where I'm going. But when there is something big enough, something I care enough about, I really fall in love with, I make the choice. It's something that's really interesting to me. Then I'm very committed and I'm very dedicated and passionate about what I do. I can be counted on completely. My mind works so fast. It's a forward-moving action full of lots of plans and thoughts, things for the future. And when all these plans fall together in one place, it's a great feeling. I look forward to that. When I'm on a roll and feeling really good, sometimes I have a feeling of superiority, like I can do anything. I can learn anything. I can accomplish anything. It's quite a wonderful feeling, but there's another side. In just a few moments, I can hit bottom and feel totally inadequate. I had an experience of being in a teacher's meeting. The first group I was in, I almost snuck out because I felt so stupid. The second group I was in, I felt like I could write a book on the subject, and it was interesting to watch the difference in just a few seconds of being on the bottom and then on the top. I'm uncomfortable with authority. Why should someone have authority over me? I like to be on an equal footing. I like to equalize it. If I do give a person authority, I tend to feel really intimidated. I don't like that feeling, so I will either equalize it or I will avoid the authority. Beginnings are wonderful. I'm always so excited and enthusiastic in the beginning of something. Then in the middle, I get bogged down a little bit and have some trouble with commitment. That's true in human relationships too. I move into a new relationship with gusto. I love it. Then in the middle, it's really important that the person can hang in there with me because I kind of out of sight, out of mind. But if they hang in there and they're willing to, we can have a wonderful long-term relationship. I like being the way I am. I like to relate to people that are full of energy, have a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of options, are independent. Those are the kinds of people I really like to surround myself with.
You have just seen 9 points of view of the human condition. This diagram can also demonstrate ways in which the 9 interact with each other and how each point of view changes under stress or in a secure life situation. On one level, this is an unusually concise and helpful model of personality, but the real power of the diagram lies in the fact that each of the 9 types is predisposed to a special aspect of higher awareness. For further information about the 9 types, how they interact with each other, and the context of their higher abilities, you may contact Helen Palmer at the Center for the Investigation and Training of Intuition, 1442A Walnut Street, Berkeley, California 94709.